Hey guys, good morning. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. I just wanted to get on here to wish you who are mothers happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. And with that, guys, being said, I wanted to do a short message about the importance of motherhood. Motherhood is a position, even being a parent, period. It is a high position of honor. And being a mother, it's not easy. You're always learning along the way. There's nobody that's perfect. You find a person that they may have been one way with their firstborn, and then when they have their second or third child, they may be a little bit different. With each birth, each child, the parenting style may change. There may be more temperance, whatever it may be, more patience, and the first child is looking like, what? And then you have your second child, and your second child is like, what? With a third child, right? But it's not always that way. In addition to that, each child is going to have their own characteristics, their own way of being. So, depending on that, the parent may be different with each child because they're not all the same. They each have their own personality. But what is very important as a parent is that you are just. You see, a lot of times parents will be in positions where they are focused on the fact that they are parents and they become very autocratic, okay, in the power and the authority that they have. They carry a dictatorship sort of approach or even a totalitarian approach. And if you look up autocratic, it's different from democratic. Autocratic is it's one person that's making the rules, their way, no way. No one else is going to have any opinion on what that is. And if you go against that, there are going to be consequences for it. It's pretty much the same thing with a totalitarian approach, as well as, a dictatorship. And you don't want to be that way as a parent, as a mother. A lot of times you can abuse your power. You may treat your children differently. And you have to also realize that you don't know everything about your child. Your children are not all the same. You should not compare your children to one another. I think parents can make that mistake and say, oh, why can't you be like your brother? Why don't you do this or that? But you will find if you really take a closer look, there's something that child does, the one that you're criticizing, there's something that they do well that the younger one doesn't do. But yet that may not be brought up because you're focused overall on this child. Sometimes as mothers, you have to be very careful that you don't have resentment towards your child. As a mother, you have to be able to forgive because sometimes parents still hold grudges. Sometimes you can begin to dislike your child. The child is not being who they should be. And really, a child's brain is continuing to develop to their in their mid-20s. As a matter of fact, we're born with over 300 bones in our bodies, and it gets all the way to about our mid-20s for our bones to finally fuse to the 200 and something bones that most of us have. So what I'm saying is a child is constantly developing and becoming someone. And who they get as they change along the way, it can be hard, it can be difficult. I'm not telling you that you're supposed to put up with abuse or you're supposed to put up with a child that is just doing things that's unlawful and immoral and wrong. But you have to have the wisdom as a parent in how to deal with that. So you don't begin to take it personally. You don't begin to set vendettas against your child. And you don't begin to treat them differently from someone else. That's why it's very important that as a mother and as a parent, you are prayerful, that you pray and ask God to guide you, because you don't know everything there is to know about a mother, to be a mother. You may know what you've seen other mothers do, but it doesn't always mean that it's right. There may be some good things that you learned from your parent. Let's say you have a parent that's kind of horrible, or was to you. In the midst of all that, there'll be one or two attributes about them that was actually good. But everything else they did, they may have done some things that was really detrimental. You could have an abusive parent that is really good with money. Well, you learn the importance of saving money, but they're abusive. You see what I'm saying? And I've done a video before that talks about the difference between good qualities in a person but poor character. A person can have good qualities, they're clean, they can teach you how to cook and everything, but their character, who they are at the core, how they go about things is very bad. They can be vindictive, manipulating, wicked, all of that, but really good in the community as far as helping. So sometimes you have to be careful that as a mother, you're not a person, you may have some good qualities, but at the core of that, you are a wicked mother. You are an evil mother. You are a vindictive mother. You are a mother that seeks revenge. You are a mother that holds grudges. You're a mother that plays favorites. There's a perspective from a child that can be really hard because the child, a lot of times, if they're not being given room to talk to you, they hold in a lot of hurt and pain. So you're lashing out and you're saying all these things and your child is hurt. If you embarrass your child, talk down to them, you're challenging them, you don't care about them, it's really ironic at that point that yes, you still want to walk in that position of mother. You want this respect as a mother, and it's simply because you're in a position as a mother. But then at the same time, the child could say, well, I'm your child, so you're supposed to do this. It doesn't matter what I do. That's not really how it works. With great honor comes great responsibility, right? To whom much is given, much is required. And so it's very important as a mother, you see your child as an individual and not just something that you gave birth to that you own. They're not property, they're an individual. So you have to really be mindful of that. Because especially as Christians, there are a lot of people who they're serving the community, they're doing a lot of things, but they are failing at home with their own children. And while relationships can be complex and things can happen, there's some women, they're just so busy going to church and doing all these different things and trying to keep a good image to the public, but then they come home and they're completely different to their children. Being a mother is not easy at all. But if you have the mindset of, I still need to learn more about myself, and as your child grow and as they change, learning yourself, because once they get in their teen years and everything, you may feel like you need to shut them down, show them who's boss, when you need to teach. In addition to chastising, there must be teaching. There must be some temperance. There must be patience. There must be consideration. You must be willing to hear what your child have to say. And to some people, this is a joke, because when they were growing up, their parents didn't want to hear anything they had to say. They were slapped in the mouth. They were told where to go. They were met with a barrage of profanities or physical abuse. But it doesn't mean that it was right. And as each generation comes up, bad habits and ways of being and the autocratic approach to parenting has to change. Sometimes people are wondering, why are my children not around me? Why are they not there? And then they will fall back on, oh, but I'm a mother, I'm your mom, I'm your dad. But you have to understand that being a parent is more than just holding a title that you can hold over your child's head. It's about being there. It's about understanding your child. It's about being able to say that I'm sorry. It's able to say, forgive me for mistakes that I've made, and stop doing it. You can't apologize to your child and keep doing the same thing over and over again. And you cannot say, well, I bought you clothes and I fed you, I'm never going to apologize to you. You cannot be a parent that never makes a mistake. And you must also be willing to apologize. If you know you did something wrong, don't just go into the child and then offer to buy them some food or just talk to them out the blue without ever acknowledging the situation. you set up your child for a life of abuse where someone will mistreat them and they don't apologize and they just go on as if nothing else has happened. It has to be addressed. To never apologize to your child and you're always right, there's no way in all your life you're always right. If you apologize properly to your child. You don't tell them why they deserve it and going in all this half apology. That is not right. And when you are saying, especially when you're saying that you're a Christian, you have to show the fruits of the Spirit, which you're going to find in Galatians chapter 6. Sometimes it's very hard for children if you're saying that you're of God and they see you are one way on the phone, one way at the church, but when you're home, you're completely different. And at the same time, you're imposing religion on them. You're forcing God on them. And strangely enough, God has the same personality as you do as a mother. Conditional, threatening. You understand what I'm saying? I would say there are a few examples in the Bible of good mothers and bad mothers. Let's talk about the mother of Jesus. We know she was a chosen vessel to give birth to Jesus. This had to be very hard for her to know that, I don't even know, when she gave birth to him, I'm sure she didn't know that he was going to be crucified. But at some point being able to let go of him. At 12 years old, Jesus was already teaching in the temples and the synagogues. And as mothers, we have to be able to recognize the abilities of our children and their talents and allow them to be that. It states a lot in the Bible how there's a lot of things that she will hear Jesus say that she didn't really understand, but she just quietly watched him. She'll ponder on it in her heart, but she quietly watched him. Also, decisions that have to be made. I'm sure that Mary did not want Jesus to be sacrificed once it got to the point that she realized this is what was going to happen. But we find no readings or anything about her trying to stop him. No doubt as a mother, that conversation would have happened. But ultimately, she stood and realized this was his destiny. Now, I'm not saying that as mothers, you're supposed to sit there and be like, it's my child's destiny to die. But to use it more in more modern context, that sometimes our children are going to have to make decisions that we may not necessarily want them to make, that we're not comfortable with, but we have to let them go and do the things that they need to do and pray for them and be there for them and be there to praise them for their successes, not talk them out of things, not make them feel as if, not make them feel bad for doing something opposite of what you wanted them to do. You may have been a cheerleader growing up, but your daughter is not, and she may not want to do that. You may have pledged to this sorority, but your daughter does not want that. You may have done a total makeover of yourself. And sometimes you can even resent your child because they look like what you used to look like before you had all the work done. And so it embarrasses you and you want her to be this way. You may want your son to be a certain way. And he's not doing exactly what you want him to do. So you may find yourself trying to coerce him or manipulating him by withdrawals, not speaking to him, withholding things because that's what you want him to do. And this is not what you do as a mother. Examples of good mothers. Hannah, she wanted a son. She was barren for so long, couldn't have children. And she prayed and asked God to give her a child. And she got Samuel. She gave her word to God that if you give me a child, I will give him back to you to use for your glory. And she kept her word. As a mother, it is very important that you keep your word. Whether you're keeping it to God or you're keeping it to your child. If you tell your child you're going to do something, do it. Your word is very important. In keeping her word to God and giving baby Samuel to Eli, I believe, forgive me if I don't have it right. In doing so, the Lord blessed her. He blessed her and she had many more children. And I'm sure she continued to visit Samuel all the time. But as a mother, keeping your word is really important. Because when you do that, you're teaching your children something and they trust you. Examples of bad mothers who did not do right would be Rachel, I think her name was. It's either Rachel or Rebecca. Forgive me, guys. And with her, she had the sons, okay? The twins. And what did she do? She spoke to the younger twin that she preferred and taught him and helped him to manipulate his father to steal his brother's birthright. These are examples of what a mother can do. Can set a child, one of her children, a twin at that, against the other one, and manipulated the father as well. There are many mothers that do that. They manipulate their children. They use the children against their parent. This is not the right thing to do, because what happened? It caused a rift for many years between the two brothers. And thankfully, years later, they were able to reconcile. Mothers. Let's talk about Athaliah. She, upon learning, her son was a king. And he had many, many sons who would have taken his throne. But when he died in battle, she ordered that all her grandsons be murdered because she wanted the throne. You have to be careful as a mother that you are not that type of person, that you will destroy even your grandchildren for whatever you want. You may not butcher them, though this is not something that's unusual, as we read about grandmothers killing their grandchildren. But doing things, being willing to destroy your children, your adult children, even if that means disrupting their marriages, disrupting their relationships for your own benefit. As a mother, it's very hard to undo it when you show yourself to be a mother who will really do harm to your children, who will destroy their relationship and their marriages, simply because you have the power to do so, because you have a bone to pick, because you become so angry that you will do something to maybe out your child. Mothers know a lot of things about their children and what they do. And imagine that a mother, when she becomes angry, will disclose something to your boyfriend or girlfriend or fiance or husband or wife or your co-workers, or seeing you about to be successful. A mother will do this and deny it, because one of the things with being a mother, and a female at that, there is there is an ability that God has given us that when you use it for evil, you can be extremely manipulating and very subtle with it, very much like the serpent. Just be careful that you are not that kind of mother. We must be willing to stand in the gap for our children. There's a story in the Bible where Elijah, he goes to a home, I believe. I want to say it was Elijah or Eli. But the son had a headache. The lady's son had a headache and he died. And Eli, or Elijah, forgive me, I can't remember which one. I want to say it was Elijah, had previously prophesied length of life, just things for the future of the child, and the child died. The child had a headache, lay down and died. The mother prayed and prayed, and she picked up the child and she ran to Elijah and she said to Elijah, "You must pray for my child. You have spoken this word of my child. He shall not die." And he was already dead. But she believed. Long story short, the child was brought back to life. But not only was it Elijah's faith in God, but also the mother's belief in her child, though he were dead, that you can bring him back. And I do believe as mothers, sometimes when our children are not doing what we want them to do, it will be easy to disparage them. It's easy to be frustrated with them. But I wonder what prayer would be like, even if the child is not doing right and you may need to correct them. The power of your prayers for your child, for our children, would work miracles. Whatever it is that's going on in them and with them. Praying for them. Not telling them that they're a low down, dirty shame and they're low down and this and you're just like this person. I can't stand you. Get up my face, you blankety blank blank, rickety raff raff, rickety rack rack, son of a duck a da duck duck. You understand? The child takes all that in, can't talk back to you, goes to their room, go by themselves, where they're left with their pain and their tears and their thoughts. And this is where darkness comes in. This is where the enemy comes in. And the child gets to imagine. They want to step on a crack, break their mama's back. They may wish you were dead. They hate you. All these different things they just feed on. And sometimes that's why we find our bullies in the schools. And other times that's why that older sibling will be abusing that child that's being treated so differently and getting away with everything. And we also, again, I want to say this, each child is different. You cannot make them all molds of one another. There's one that may be outgoing, another that's athletic, another one that's either they're neither athletic or outgoing. There's one child a parent may not spend time with, and they don't talk to that much. You have to pay attention. That child withdraws more and more because they feel like they don't fit in. Don't make jokes at your child's expense either. Tell them that they were adopted. Telling them how they look. Making fun of their body as they develop. They're going to go through this phase of big feet, skinny body, tall, thin, short, all of that. My daughter, she's petite, but she has, long limbs. So when we're buying clothes for her, that's a challenge because she's petite, but then she's petite, but then the sleeves and the pants are too short for her. You can't make fun of things like that. Your boys are growing up and they're getting their body odors and stuff. Don't talk to them. Just tell them, boy, you stink, and embarrass them and everything. You let them know. You tell them, hey, put on deodorant. Hey, do this and that. Don't embarrass them. Because all those things, you're planting seeds. Nobody's perfect. No parent is perfect. I'm not telling you that children cannot be disciplined. They must be disciplined. I'm not telling you that there can't be consequences for their action. There must be. But there must be balance. And the cussing kids out and stuff that I see, it shouldn't happen. And be willing to say that you are sorry and ask God to help you to work on yourself. Saying that you buy them food and clothing and shelter, and that's nothing to do with anything. That's your job. And if you look at it and realize that's your job once you become a parent, you wouldn't keep bringing that stuff up. That is a lame argument. That's what you're supposed to do, Mom. It's good that you're doing it. And I'm not saying any child should look at the parent and say that's what you're supposed to do. It don't matter. It does matter because not everyone has a roof over their head and food to eat. But it shouldn't be something, those are basic human needs. Why are we bringing this up in an argument or bringing this up as the reason why you cannot say that you're sorry for making your mistakes? And do not play your child against each other because you will be held responsible for the rift that you cause between the generations. When you treat your children differently, you're always blaming the oldest one for everything. The younger one can get away with anything. The younger one can disrespect their elder. They have no power, or the middle one can do whatever they want to do, or we're going to ignore them and say all these things. When you're already teaching your child at a young age to disrespect other people that's older than them, as long as it's not you, they'll go to school and disrespect the teachers. And this is where all the dynamics come in, where there are rifts that goes from generation to generation. So your oldest have their child and the youngest have theirs, and the youngest has always been made to feel that they're better than yours. And you know what you'll be doing? You'll be more nice and kind and considerate to the youngest children, and it'd be the youngest child's children against your oldest child's children. So it goes on for generation to generation. And I want you to understand that as a mother, not only are you going to stand, not only do we stand before God for ourselves, but for what you did with what God gave you. The roles that you walked in. You know, it's one thing you're single, you're just dealing with yourself and maybe how you dealt with people throughout your life. But as a mother, now you're standing before God for how you dealt with the souls that lived with you, your children. And children are very important. The Bible is very clear that children are a reward from God. Whether you think that you got rewarded or punished, what you do is put that child in the hand of God. What you do, you have to make sure you're not exalting one over the other. What you should do as a mother is to pray and ask God to give you the discernment so that you can hear yourself, to open up your ears so you can hear how you speak to your child. Okay? You hear how you speak to them. You'll hear how you address them. That you'll be convicted by the Holy Spirit when you do something, and that you'll discern things. What's going on with my child? That your eyes will be open up to the dynamics of your household and how you're dealing with a child. Does your child have a childhood? Can your child be a child, or from the time they get home, they're doing everything for the children, for you, getting your drinks, doing this, the child cries, you send your child to get the, when are they getting to be themselves? Can they go and have fun with their friends, or they have to watch the babies, they have to do this? You cannot do that to a child. Your time for college is long gone. I know I'm gonna make somebody mad. I'm not saying you can't go to school, but you cannot overlap and take your child's freedom away because you're doing this and you're doing that and you have to study and you have to work. So the child is doing everything. They're not going to school, or they go to school, but they have to come right home. They can't do any sports because they need to come home and do this, and they need to help you do this and do this. And then they're cleaning from the time you come home all the way. Because I'm the mom, I'm the parent, I went to work, and I'm going to school full time, and I'm studying for my finals, and I'm writing my paper. Well, what you do at that moment is that you're making yourself more important. Your child is the future. You're not the future. You're the past. They're the future. The minute you have a child, they're the future. You become the past, and you're supposed to be the one on the other side. You're supposed to be taking care of your children and your home and all that stuff, and you're pushing them to be the best that they can be. And even if you want to do that, you have to realize your child has the right to grow and to experience life, and not to be a parent having never given birth and losing their opportunities because you want to catch up on the ones that you lost on, or you started late in the game. You may say that you're doing it for them, but you got to find a better way to do it. You're doing it for them, but you have to realize this is the future. I'm not the future. Children are not more important than you in the sense of you're supposed to be subservient. In no way am I saying that. But there's an imbalance. There's a change going on. And at the end of the day, realizing that the minute you have a child, you're no longer the future. You're the past. Until you have a child, when you're single, you're still the future that your parents gave birth to. You're their future. In a sense of now you're going to set the path for a new generation. You have a child, you're second. Understand, I'm not telling you that your child should disrespect you. Or you're less than them. You're not. You're in a position of authority. You're, as a mother, that is a position that is unchallenged. You will always be that. Always, you will hold that. Whether they acknowledge you or not, you are still mother. When they say who's your mother, they can put anybody's name on there but yours. Provided they didn't get adopted or something. But even then, you're the one from whom they came. They cannot change that. But you cannot see your children as its. And being a mother is an ongoing process. And it's never too late to learn your mistakes. Go to counseling if you need to. Take anger management courses. If you can't afford to go to see an actual counselor, there are things they may have some free programs. See if they have that. Free anger management classes, free parenting classes. And whatever's not there, you can go on the internet and find it on YouTube and work on yourself and face yourself and understand that the way your parents did it may not have always been right. There may be things you can appreciate. Your mom and your parents taught you some good things, but you have to also acknowledge that everything wasn't right. It's kind of like this. Now say this about brown people, okay? There's some habits and things that we may have picked up on, and you just do it because you saw your mom doing it. Change out that kitchen sponge. You may have seen your parents using that kitchen sponge all the way till it just started to look like something else. Like, what is that? Oh, that's a kitchen sponge. You may see that burnt, what is that? The dish towel in the kitchen. And you keep it with all the stains on it. You wash it, but there's these grounding stains that's never going to come out. And you keep it. It may have holes in it, and you keep it. You wash it and keep it. Why do you do that? Because you may have seen that. Now realizing the reason why your grandma and they washed it, of course. The reason why they kept these burnt dish towels with holes in it, because they didn't have any money to buy more, so they just kept it. But you still have it because that's what you saw. So it's the same thing with behaviors. Ask God to help you. You have to see yourself. You have to see your flaws. And sometimes the child in you is still there. The things that you experienced, the things that you went through, the things that you have not resolved, the things that you have not faced about yourself. And that child comes out and takes it out on your child. Take it out on your children. Resentment cannot be happy for your children. You're jealous of your daughters. Why? You're still a child inside. You have this adult body and you happen to be their mom, but you're jealous because of something inside of you that still needs to be rectified. So you can't be happy. They're smart. They're doing things. You're bothered by that. You shouldn't be jealous of your sons or over possessive of your sons. You just want your sons for yourself. No one else should come near my son. And you manipulate and cry. Let's end on this one. Tears. Using tears to manipulate your children. Tears of a mother should be worth something. It's powerful. Tears of a woman is powerful. But oh, it's ugly when it's used to manipulate. It's ugly when it's used to deflect and to guilt. When it's used to turn the tables or to cause others to now be angry and attack someone who's actually in the right. But because you are not only a mother, but a woman, you use it to manipulate or to get your way or to keep your children under control. being a mother when God blesses your womb. It is a great responsibility. It's a position of power. It's a position of responsibility. It's a position of accountability. It is a position that we will have to grow into and continue to grow for the remainder of our lives. You've never just arrived. You're never there. And remember, you do not want to be parenting with an autocratic, totalitarian, dictatorship mentality, because you lose your children. Several things will happen. Either you break them down so much that they become dwarfed in their thinking. They're unable to function in society. They just stay right there at home with you, filled with resentment, but too terrified of you to do anything about it. The other thing is they may continue that pattern of behavior with their own children. The wounding that you placed within them, they will wound their children and do the same things, just carry on the torch. Another is you can lose that relationship. They can distance themselves from you. As soon as they turn an age that they could leave, they just leave. You never see them again because they've been waiting to get away from you. You see them every now and then. Now, granted, some children do that anyway, even if the parents are attentive and whatever, and you can't do anything about that. They may do that, you may apologize, and they still pull away from you. But just know that you apologize and just mean it. If they don't accept your apologies, don't feel like now you have to go back and tell them, I didn't have to apologize, You either apologize or you're not apologizing. And you should not also, if you apologize to your child about some things of the past and they still want to hold on to grudges, that's their choice. But you should never be in a position where they're using their grandchildren against you. Well, you better do this if you want to see me again. You better do that. Nope. You're still the parent and you should not be disrespected. You don't have to be groveling and become the doormat in order to have a relationship with your child. That is unacceptable. But what we're going to end with, as I said, is if that child, you're still the same person, you just got a head of gray hair, you're still just the same way, you don't see them as an individual, you don't see them as a person, you feel like they owe you, you never apologize, you have nothing to apologize for, you're causing problems, you're doing all these different things, you won't take any accountability for things of the past, things that had happened with your child. When they're trying to talk to you about it, you don't accept it, you blame them. If they distance themselves and you never see them again, and they have nothing to do with you, you can't be saying, well, I'm the mother, I'm mom, how could you do that to me? It has nothing to do with that. Exactly, you are the mother, and that's what you created. Through your power, authority as a mother, you chose to alienate your child from you by being autocratic, a dictator, a totalitarian, a manipulator in your approach. And that's the end results. Remember, when you plant a seed, you're going to get a tree. If I plant a lemon seed, I'm going to get a lemon tree that's going to give me lots and lots of lemons. And it's going to spring up from season to season to season. And sometimes what you're looking at in that child is that lemon tree. It was that seed you planted many years ago. And now they're alienated from you. Because guess what? They grow up to dislike you. And nothing about you, they don't want to be around you because you caused trauma. So pray for reconciliation. Give them the time that they need. You can always start the day. Start with praying, asking the Lord to forgive you, working on yourself, being accountable, being responsible, and looking at your children as the treasures that they are, whether you think they are or not. Can't look at your child and say you're not going to be anybody. Just as David, he was just a shepherd boy. No one thought he would become anyone, but he became king. There are many encounters of individuals who people thought they weren't going to be anything. Your child may not be that great in school right now, but don't talk them down. Help them as best as you can. Call them stupid and dumb is not going to work. Just explain it to them and pray and ask God that their understanding will be opened up so they can get the work. Because there are lots of people, your child may have gifts and talents and abilities that their education would never have taken them to, that the gift and talent and abilities that would give them fame and fortune and all of that. And other times, I'm not saying that they shouldn't get educated now, because you're always going to need that. When the gifts and the talents run out or something happens, you still need your education. But you have to allow your child to flourish and to grow and to become who they're going to be. Because they may not be great right now in school, but later on, they may pick up and are brilliant. And a lot of times, brilliant children and smart kids are just lazy, but they need to snap out of it. But whatever it is, you don't want to be the one that snipped off their branches, that pulled up their roots, that dried them out. Because then you get this ugly, gnarled image in front of you. I'm not saying the person is actually ugly now, but when their personalities and the way that they are, they just dry towards you, won't have nothing to do. They're prickly, they're distant, they're not giving anything back to you, no fruit. You created that. So I hope this message helps someone. I know it may not be the ideal Mother's Day message, but you know, as mothers, I'm sure Mother's Day is always about you're so great. Yay! Yeah, it is. It's time to appreciate, but it's also a time of reflection, not only on how wonderful that you are being to those of you that are, you make your mistakes, you're doing whatever, you're raising your children as best as you can. You go ahead and do that. A keynote on that to also say is, remember, we still have to have that balance, not overindulge and everything. You just want to give them everything because you didn't have it. There must be balance. If not, you're going to create a narcissist. You're going to create an entitled person. So with that, you still also have to pray and ask God to help you to have the balance so that you don't have a child that is entitled. They feel entitled to everything. If you don't give them something, they're just going to shut down on you. Pay attention to that. You're going to know. You'll see it. And at that point, you don't curse them out and tell them how much you do for them and this and that. But you sit them down and you have that talk. That they will understand balance and accountability. So happy Mother's Day to all mothers. Without mothers, there will be nobody on this planet. God has placed us in wonderful roles, and we're still learning. But a part of learning is being accountable and self-reflecting. If not, you make the mistake and you're going to have the God mentality, as many parents tend to have. So thank you so much for listening to my video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And God bless you.